Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our source overview. We are the Community Engagement and Service Learning Center for the Johns Hopkins University Schools of Public Health, Nursing, and Medicine. And today we really wanted to give you all an opportunity to learn more about the work that we do at Source and the wonderful and wide variety of ways that you can join us. So before we jump into the meat of this work, our team is in Baltimore, where Johns Hopkins Schools of Public Health, Nursing, and Medicine are located. And we certainly want to acknowledge the Piscataway tribe, which is the traditional owners of the lands of the Chesapeake Bay region, which is near us here in Baltimore. We also want to acknowledge the impact of racist systemic oppression, including the practice of redlining, which was actually originated here in Baltimore, particularly on the lives of Black and Brown folks in our city, and of course, still around our country as well. So we're gonna kind of take some turns sharing some information from our Source team. We'll certainly provide opportunities for y'all to jump in and ask some questions after we kind of breeze through our slides here. But our mission is to engage our Hopkins Health Professional Schools and Baltimore communities in mutually beneficial partnerships. It's really critical to the work that we do that promote health and social justice. And the work that we do, we are always guided by our core values, which include reciprocity, justice, service, and collaboration. And you can learn more about the work that we do and our efforts on our website, which is simply source.jhu.edu. So I'm going to actually have each of our team members say a few words to introduce themselves. We'll be talking throughout and as we share some information. I'm Mindy Levin. I'm the founder and director of Source. I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Health, Behavior, and Society in the School of Public Health with the Joint Appointment in Health Policy and Management and the School of Nursing. And I kind of touch a lot of the different areas that we're going to be talking about. But I do a lot of training of faculty members in service learning, teach a few courses, and support our team. I'll just go down in order here. So Tyler, do you want to say a hello on what you do next?
Sure. Hi, all. Glad to be here with you this afternoon. I'm the Associate Director of Source. I am also faculty in the Department of Health, Behavior, and Society, School of Public Health. I'm largely on the academic side of things. So head of our fellows program, which you'll hear more about in a bit, and work with faculty designing service learning courses as well as our partners in those courses. And I help do some of the research around here. So that keeps me pretty busy.
Great. Kiala.
Hi folks, my name is Kiala Jacques. I'm one of your assistant directors at Source. My work spans our student development and faculty development, but I often take the lead on our social justice orientation for both of those populations alongside working with our community partners.
Great. Tony Bridges.
Hey everyone, Tony Bridges, one of the assistant directors here with Source. I work a lot with the student groups and on some of the service learning projects that hopefully you'll take part in. I also have a couple of programs that I'll talk about that I also run. And in my spare time, I'm also a state delegate. And so if any of you are interested in the Health Policy Institute and the School of Public Health, we're always looking for good people to come on board and help us out when we get to Annapolis to advocate for different policies. Welcome.
Thanks, Tony. Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa Pinckney, the administrative coordinator here at Source. In my position, I serve as the office manager, responding to general inquiries that come into our Source email account. I manage our budget, and I provide programmatic support to our team.
Thanks, Vanessa. Ezat.
Hi, everyone. I'm Izzat Shahade, the communication specialist with Source. My work touches a lot of different areas, but mainly all of our outward-facing communications, our social media, website content, as well as all of our event promotion, promotion around some of our service learning programs, the emails that you receive, our service scoop, for example, and some other listserv messages. If you've seen any of those come through, those come from me. So I also run a number of different areas that we can talk about in a little bit more detail later, and just very excited to meet you all.
Great. Thanks so much, Azat. I'll mention a few other things and turn it over to Vanessa. Some of the folks that aren't able to be with us right now, Glenn Ross is our Source community consultant. He is a member of the Baltimore community, born and raised here in Baltimore, and he helps guide us through some of our Baltimore tours and orientation activities. He actually was just with us for most of the afternoon with onboarding some of our medical students. And we also have federal work study students that work in our office. We make note that we have a governing board that has representatives from across all 3 of the health professional schools. So whether you are public health, nursing, or medicine, we have listed here the executive committee, which are basically the student affairs and academic affairs deans that guide our work. And our governing board also has other faculty, staff, students on our board, as well as we have a Source Community Council that has representatives from our partnering nonprofits that serve with us as well. So that's a little bit more about that governing board. I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa to talk about ways that you might be able to join our team.
Yes. So we are currently hiring. We have several federal work study student program assistance positions. I want to say 4, 5 in total. The positions include working with our social justice component. You'll also work with our fellows and scholars. There's also a position working with our CP course as well. Those positions are listed in our Source Weekly Service Scoop. So if you have not registered or signed up to receive the scoop, you should do that by sending email to source@jhu.edu with the word subscribe in the subject line, and we will get you signed up to receive that scoop. It comes out every Tuesday, and it will be delivered in your inbox and updated with the latest community engagement opportunities. We are also receiving applications for our Source Student Governing Board. Applications are due Sunday, September 20th. So we are accepting applications from non-MPH students, School of Medicine students, MS1s only, and School of Nursing students, full start students from all degree programs. For more information about the Student Governing Board, the link is here, source.jhu.edu/our team, and the application is there and all the information that you need in order to apply.
Great, thanks, Vanessa. The work that we do, you'll see that we are constantly collaborating, whether it's students, faculty, staff, or community partners. So it really takes students to join us. So we hope that those of you that are really interested in being here might be thinking about those opportunities. So let me jump into some of this work that we do, some of the things I'm going to breeze through and have some of our Source colleagues give you some more details. But the main thing that we try to do is to encourage students from our health professional schools is to collaborate with local public health organizations and community-based organizations. You'll hear from us to say that we are really committed to and focused on Baltimore. And we recognize particularly our public health students might not be here in Baltimore this year, while our med students and nursing students are because of clinical opportunities. But we're still going to have opportunities for you to support community organizations here in Baltimore, no matter where you are around the globe. And I'll also say, regardless of what your interest might be, like maybe Baltimore isn't your home, maybe the US isn't your home, but the skills that you can pick up are certainly great for working with populations all over. So that's just a little update there. We are always encouraging our students, as well as our faculty and staff, to work with basically different community-based organizations in our area. And there's lots of different reasons to do so. You'll find that in a lot of your coursework, you're going to be learning a lot of theory. We give you the opportunity to apply that theory in real world settings. And I can also tell you that we have this rich tradition of these partnerships that we have here in Baltimore, that there are organizations here in Baltimore that are like, when are the new students coming? We're ready for them to work with us. This is also a great way for you to build your resume, your CV, get some experience. A lot of our students have also had the opportunity to gain skills as well as become employed with organizations after the fact. And this is a great opportunity for you to really make a difference and embrace your new community. We do partner with over 100 community-based organizations here in Baltimore. Obviously, I can't tell you about all of those organizations, but if you look on our website, you can see our full directory of organizations, and whether there's a particular topic that you're interested in or a group that you're interested in serving, we likely have a partner within our network already. The involvement opportunities are also very diverse, and I won't go into them all because that's really what the bulk of this presentation is going to be about. But we have everything from one-time to short-term and ongoing. We have things that are completely a part of your academics, as well as things that are not a part of your academics, you know, a break from academics. We have some opportunities that are paid or have a stipend. We also will be doing lots of work with student groups in the 3 schools, as well as supporting students, faculty, and community organizations through a range of professional development opportunities. We have events that you'll hear from us about and be able to participate in, although of course, particularly in the fall, we recognize that these particular events and programs are going to be virtual, they're going to be remote and online, but in October we'll have Baltimore Week, we'll have lots of different ways that we'll introduce you to our organizations. You'll hear much more in a little bit later from Kiala about our Practicing Justice series and the work we're doing around social justice. And the list kind of goes on from there. So why don't I, at this point in time, turn it over to my colleague Kiala to talk about social justice development and support work.
Sure thing. Thanks so much, Mindy. So as Mindy shared, not only is justice a part of our mission, it is a part of our values. And we are very intentional in infusing the work that we do in student, faculty, and staff development with those values of social justice. In terms of student development, however, we have some intentional programming and support efforts that we curate to ensure that you have the opportunity to get to know what justice looks like in practice through the work of our community-based organizations, the work and research of faculty and fellow peers, and the work of organizations that are functional and active in Baltimore that you may not be aware of. We often partner with other centers and departments and even schools to provide these events and programs to students. So one of our partners, for example, is the School of Nursing, which hosts a series of social justice events each year. We also work with student leaders and student groups to co-design events in response to student needs. So for example, student leaders have come forward to help co-design an allyship, LGBTQ+ allyship training that they've delivered to their peers, alongside a microaggression training that not only has been designed by students and delivered to peers, but now there's a train the trainer that will ensure that all incoming and existing students have the opportunity to be trained in addressing microaggressions. So our Practicing Justice events not only provide you with the opportunity to understand what justice may look like in the field and in practice, but to develop some skills as well. One of the skills that we are excited to help you develop is the skill of critical reflection. Reflection is central to the pedagogy of service learning, and it is what we say is the dash between the word service and learning, because it's so much a part of the meaning making, not only when you're working in partnership with community-based organizations, but as you're really developing your social justice orientation. So we provide critical reflection leader training so that students can be a part of the programming that we provide, the service learning and practicing justice programming that we provide, but also that they can hold space with their peers to process and consider some of the social issues that are present in our current society, some of the realities of how oppression is perpetuated within the practice of health professional practice, and to think really intentionally about how we show up in the world, how we engage with power systems, how we utilize our power to orient towards justice. So we have an opportunity for students to be trained by other students in practicing these things and to join into the work that we're doing to help build critical awareness with student programming. Something that is new and emerging is creating an opportunity for our student leaders alongside of our staff to hold space for students. We recognize that these are tumultuous times between the lived experience of holding space for Black lives and the realities of COVID. Students may find themselves really overwhelmed and be looking for support, be looking for advising, or be looking for places to critically reflect and reground. And so we are rolling out for the first time these office hours where student leaders can be involved with holding space for their peers, and SOARS staff will be involved with holding space for peers. As I said before, social justice is central to the work that we do, and you'll find that it runs a thread through other elements of our programming. So if we move to the next slide, I'll talk to you about one of our signature programs, which is the SOARS Service Scholars Program. This signature program is an opportunity for students to spend a year walking alongside our community-based organizations and working as project managers to accomplish a project that our community-based organizations have identified. This is a really exciting opportunity for students, and we actually have closed applications, so you just missed the window, and students are currently interviewing, where we engage a cohort of 15, 5 from the School of Nursing, from the School of Public Health, and from the School of Medicine students in this year-long development process where students engage as project managers through this placement. They receive a stipend for the work that they do as project managers. But the exciting news for you is that these students are being trained in critical reflection alongside project management and volunteer management. So if you happened to throw your hat in the ring for one of these opportunities and weren't selected, it doesn't mean that you won't have the opportunity to be connected to this exciting work. Students will post opportunities for their peers to come on board and serve as volunteers on these projects. So you still have the opportunity to get involved. And this is another really great way that we train students and help them grow in their professionalism, and it's infused with social justice orientation.
Just to add to that, I think with the SOARS Service Scholars, I used to say that the HIV testing and counseling program was one of our most popular programs. I think after the work of Azad and the rest of the team, as well as some of our student governing board members, they got the word out there this year. And so we had an overwhelming number of applicants that wanted to be involved in SOARS Service Scholars program this year to work on things such as organizing communities or starting mentorship programs, a number of possibilities or projects that a lot of community-based organizations, especially in Baltimore City, just don't have the bandwidth to get off and running. And so this program is critical for them because they actually get a project manager that's assigned to them to kind of work on helping them to not just create, but really focus their energy on this project and make sure that it's moving forward and sustained. One of the things that I do also is work with student groups. There are a number of student groups within the 3 schools, public health, nursing, and medicine. Although I will say that medicine has the most amount of service-based or community engaged student groups. But then there are also some tri-school student groups as well. And so there are groups that will have students from all 3 schools that work on things such as the Incarceration and Health Justice Collective. And they all work on things outside of, just working with the school. Each one of these organizations will work with us through SOARS to do things such as event planning. And so if an organization is looking to do something where they're looking for a local speaker, keep in mind that we work with over 100 community-based organizations. And so we have the opportunity to work with you to actually assist and make sure that a community-based organization can work to help out with whatever event it is that you're planning. We also do co-sponsorship, and that means that for us, we help with a lot of the publicity and planning of any event that you may have. And so that could mean something as simple as, just publicizing your event. Or it could be as detailed as us being as administratively involved as possible. So that could be us also, getting rooms for you, making sure that as you give people to RSVP, we're tracking those RSVPs and helping you out with those administrative tasks. Also, when you're doing events, what we try to do is make sure that we help with at least the evaluation of those events and the planning of those events. as well as the reflection for those events. And so we run the gamut of the event planning when it comes to working with student groups and individuals that are interested in working in communities. We also do a number of donation drives. Unfortunately, those donation drives are going to have to be done a little differently this year. We do 5 donation drives throughout the year, and with those donation drives, we try to make sure that we have some student groups that are co-sponsors for these drives. And so there'll be a student group that will help with publicizing the event, publicizing the drive, and if there is a location that people can drop items off at, then they'll help with making sure that those donations are collected and given back to us so that we can give them to one of our community-based organizations. Unfortunately, this year, we will have to do things a little differently. Our drive right now isn't co-sponsored. It's a drive that's definitely needed though, because the students go back to school this year. They're still gonna have items that they're gonna need, whether it's in person or virtual. And so right now due to school, we're still publicizing drives for back to school activities or donations. It's just that we don't have co-sponsors because we really don't have individuals to drop things off at the school. Everyone's doing things virtually. And so for the next 4 drives throughout the academic year, we're gonna try and figure out how to do things a little differently and make sure that we have student groups that are involved in those donation drives. One of the most important things that we try to do though is make sure that as you're going out to volunteer, whether it's individually or as a student group, you are reporting your volunteer experience. For us, that's critically important because it helps us to understand what you're doing while you're out there working with Baltimore communities, how engaged you've been with those Baltimore communities and community organizations, and how we can make your experience as well as the experience of those organizations better. With student groups, we ask that the student group leader report that activity for all the members of the student groups, but even for individuals who go out and do community activities, we still ask that you report your community service activities and hours, because that's really critical for us in shaping how we work with our communities moving forward. Next slide. So unfortunately, because of COVID-19, there are a couple of great programs that I love that are on hold right now, but I think it's important for you to know about these programs. The program that I thought was the most popular program until we had the applications this year for the Source Service Scholars is the HIV Counseling and Testing Program. This is where we have a really competitive application process where you have the opportunity to be certified as an HIV counselor to go out and work with 4 programs in the community and counseling. Those programs are the Emergency Department, Harriet Lane Clinic, STAR, which is Sisters Together in Reaching, and Baltimore Crisis Response, Inc. These organizations all go out and have different program requirements and do different things in the communities. However, the HIV testing and counseling is the main thing that they need volunteers for. So in partnership with those 4 community clinic sites, we have you either doing 2 shifts per month or 1 shift per week, which is normally 3 to 4 hours. And these organizations really rely on you to be there to help out with the program for the full academic year. Quarterly, we also do reflections. So we can all get together and talk about what you've been doing, how you're feeling about what you're doing, and really to raise any concerns or questions that you may have, and to think through how we move forward with the programs. In addition, we have the Identity Clinic, which is a really good partnership that we have with the Living Classrooms Foundation. The Identity Clinic really is for individuals, returning citizens as well as homeless individuals, to get basic identification. That's your social security card, your birth certificate, or just a Maryland identification card, which we all know is critical for just basic needs, whether it's getting housing or applying for a job. It's still a need that we see in the community that we've been trying to assist with through the Identity Clinic. And so for a Saturday out of the month, we get together and provide volunteers from Johns Hopkins University, the students, to go and help with basic things such as navigating the process, doing intake for individuals, helping individuals with how they move through the process and get back and forth through public transportation. And so it's a really good program that we've even done some advocacy work in Annapolis where we highlighted this program just to make changes with how we treat returning citizens with their identification when they return home from prison. And so 2 really good programs that unfortunately we aren't doing right now, but in the future, I hope that you'll look out for us, because I really think that once we get those programs up and running again, we'll have an overwhelming response for a need that we've already identified in the community, or the community's identified for us.
All right, thanks, Tony. And hopefully we'll look forward if we're able to safely do HIV counseling and testing in the identity clinic in the future. So Baltimore Action Projects is another one of our programs. We are currently recruiting for a small number of Baltimore Action Project students. We'll let you know if you're a medical student, you're not eligible for this program, but if you're from public health or nursing, you are. This is a partnership that we have with Source. I'll let my dog out in a second. I'll do that after the slide. The Bloomberg American Health Initiative, which was a huge gift that we received from Bloomberg Philanthropies, that is looking at the entire US and focusing on 5 critical public health issues. But what we're doing is taking those same health issues and supporting some work that's being done here locally in Baltimore in partnership with some of our community-based organizations. This is an opportunity for students to receive a stipend. The community organization also receives a small monetary gift to support the project, and applications are due very soon, Sunday, August 30th. We've been circulating that around the various listservs, and of course, in our Source Weekly Service Scoop. You have a full academic year to complete a 100-hour minimum project and receive those stipends. We also have a program that's called The Connection. The Connection is our short-term small team consultant program that we do with different community-based organizations. We put together small teams, usually 3 to 5 students per team, and those students are from medicine, nursing, and public health. So this is a great interprofessional opportunity. And the teams are also mixed based on people's skill set, whether you've never done this type of work before, or if you've done this in your past life before coming back to school. We are working on things around strategic consulting, helping to write neighborhood association grants or grant templates, doing all different types of performance measurements, as well as communications consulting. For those of you that might be in the School of Public Health, for the MPH program, the Connection Community Consultants program also meets the practicum requirement, 50 hours per project. I want to highlight very briefly 2 school-specific opportunities. The first for the School of Public Health. I'm going to let the dog out. Hold on one second. If one of my partners want to talk about that momentarily, that would be.
So what I will say though, as Mindy runs to let her dog out, is as we're speaking, if you do have questions that come up and you don't want to wait until the very end, feel free to put those in the chat. We'll either try to address those in the chat, or we'll wait until the very last slide and try to address those then.
Yeah, my apologies for that. He's been sleeping by my side all day, but then the kids are busy and he hears them. Anyway, Baltimore Community Practicum course in the School of Public Health. This is a multi-term course that you actually have to apply to get into, so you can't just sign up. And at the beginning of first term, so just a few more weeks from now, students will be able to see the various projects that we have identified with our nonprofit partners here in Baltimore. They will all be virtual. You can be in Baltimore or you can be elsewhere and still be supporting these organizations. We do have a weekly seminar on Tuesdays in second term and in third term. Again, this fully meets the MPH practicum requirement and is also a core requirement for our certificate in community-based public health. So it's a great way to have this learning experience, meeting community identified needs, developing those skills around community engagement, as well as meeting some of your course requirements. And then in the School of Nursing, we do have a special program that's simply called the Community Outreach Program. And this is a program that is eligible for master entry nursing students, either students that started this past spring or students that are beginning this fall. And we actually have some funding to support students to be paid to work 4 hours a week, and that's the maximum, 4 hours per week throughout both fall and spring terms. And we'll have the opportunity for students to learn more about those positions come September. So those are specific to public health and nursing. All right, I want to turn it over to Tyler to talk more about our service learning work.
Thanks, Mindy. So we have service learning courses that run across really all three schools, but mainly School of Public Health and School of Nursing. Quick definition for those of you who are a little unfamiliar, I've bolded the really important pieces here. So it combines community service with preparation and reflection amidst an academic course. And so the really important piece is that these are community identified concerns. And so we allow our community partners to lead where this project starts and where it heads, recognizing that we're contributing to their ongoing work that they're doing every day. As we're doing that, we work hard to ensure that our faculty and students are learning about the context of Baltimore and the populations and communities in which our partners are working in as they're providing that service. And it really drives towards understanding, as I said at the beginning, this connection between service and academic coursework and the roles of citizens. We like to say that there are actually three parts to this idea of service learning. We have our service and our learning, but that hyphen in between is the processing that takes place, the reflection to understand our roles as professionals and citizens. That's the definition of how it works, right? I'll also note that, and steal this from Dr. Tania Mitchell, who writes about this, that the heart of service learning is really about three things: social change, authentic relationships, and the redistribution of power. And so all of our courses try and take that to heart as they're designing, as we are working with faculty and community partners to design what we are driving towards. So how does this actually work? What does it look like? We have a service learning fellows program where we get a few faculty every year, as well as a few community partners every year. We go through a year-long process of training them on how to design courses and projects. They learn about critical justice-based pedagogies. And of course, in that process, they get to know each other really well. And that spans the full range. We've been doing this for almost a decade. So we've got close to 70 people who have gone through this program, more than 70 people who have gone through this program. And that helps foster really lasting partnerships and new and exciting sort of ventures that are worked out right in Baltimore and that you as students can get involved in. And all you have to do is sign up for one of these courses. You can find them on our website, but also for School of Public Health, it's posted on the course catalog, which is helpful. We run 10 to 20 every year. And a couple of examples here, one of which I'll highlight: Dr. Lori Dean was awarded a national award for innovation in public health curriculum for her methods for assessing power, privilege, and public health. But this runs across. We have another example here in environmental health. We have some coming up in mental health, health behavior and society, all the many of the departments of public health, as well as a whole series in the School of Nursing that runs 3 or 4 consecutive semesters. So we've gotten pretty extensive there. We support them every year, but our faculty are also expertly trained in this work.
So you've got a little bit of a flavor from everyone about all the different opportunities and programs that we have on offer. But just to reiterate what Vanessa said earlier, and what everybody has touched on, really the best way to stay connected and to stay aware of what opportunities are emerging in our community where we really need volunteers or other kinds of support. The best way to stay connected to all of that is through our source service scoop, which is delivered, as Vanessa said, once a week. So just email source@jhu.edu with subscribe in the subject line. And just note, which school you're from, public health, nursing, or medicine, and we'll make sure that you are added to our list and stay updated on all of the emerging opportunities that are in our community. Another great way to stay connected is also to follow us on social media. You see all the icons here. I would say that we're probably not on Pinterest. I think that might be inaccurate. We might have started a Pinterest like a really long time ago, but you can find us on the others, LinkedIn as well. I think we're hopefully going to work on building out a little page there as well. But you can definitely find us on the others: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We'll always publicize opportunities to get involved with different community organizations if there's volunteer requests, as well as promoting our own programs and letting you know exactly when deadlines are coming up, to hear voices, to hear from our students who are, alums of these programs, to share their experiences and kind of give you a little bit more of a perspective on what your experience might be like if you do choose to engage in those service learning programs. And of course, one-on-one meetings are always welcome. You probably have seen the email address already, but again, source@jhu.edu. Feel free to reach out anytime. All of our team members are very accessible, and we are always happy to meet with students about ideas that you may have in terms of whether it's events like Tony was referring to, or specific reflection opportunities like Kiala was mentioning, as well as other service opportunities. We're here for you. So want to make sure that you know all the great ways to keep in touch with us and to stay connected and receive all of our updates.
So with that, I wanted to stop sharing so we could see people and be able to respond to questions that you might have. We did a very quick overview, but we were trying to give you the full spectrum of a lot of our different programs, and we still haven't even given you all of that, because as Tyler was mentioning, there are so many different service learning courses in the schools. As Tony was mentioning, there's so many different service-based student groups that we support. So we can't give it all to you, but we wanted to make sure that we're highlighting some of those key areas of focus from our work. And really the rest of the time is an opportunity for you all to ask questions. Since we're a small enough group, I feel comfortable if folks wanted to just unmute yourselves and ask, we could do that. But like the rest of the time is your time to ask away.
Let me just put a quick plug in for our website, especially for the student groups. If you're interested in a student group, we do have those organizations on our website with a blurb about what they do, who they are, and even contact information for those student groups.
Thanks, Tony. So what are folks thinking or have questions about, want to learn more about? And if we wanted to start a little bit slower, if you wanted to put in the chat, even saying which school you're from, that's helpful too. If you just want to put in public health, nursing, medicine. So we have one first question that's coming in. Thanks, Amy. Was wondering if we feel that there is any disadvantage students living outside of Baltimore might face if they're living outside of Baltimore for the year. Okay, so because of COVID-19 and people working remotely, I'm going to answer that question differently than I typically would. Because now we do have way more opportunities for students to engage remotely. Some of our programs usually do have that requirement to be in Baltimore or be able to be accessible to go to these Baltimore nonprofits, because we really want you to have that experience being physically there with the organizations. Right now, because of COVID-19, a lot of our service learning courses, actually I should say all of our service learning courses right now, our programs and events are being forced to be remote. We know that nursing students and medical students are here because you will have in-person clinical experiences. Our public health students may or may not be here in Baltimore. One of the advantages that we're feeling and seeing is that sometimes even students in Baltimore had issues with being able to be able to travel to organizations because they had limited transportation options, or they would have to jump from this bus line to this subway line, that it was going to be a little bit challenging. Now you can actually meet with an organization, Zoom, a Google Hangout, Microsoft Teams, and be right there with the organizations. So this year in particular, I feel like it's going to be easier. Certainly it's still an adjustment for all of us, because one thing, Amy, you noticed because you were on early with us, we are a chit-chatting, loving bunch of people. So it's hard for us not all to be together, and that's what our community organizations feel as well. Anything else that I know I'm just blabbering now, other thoughts from the team about that?
I think, you've touched on most of it there, but I would add also, just as you said, that this is actually a time where we are emerging, new opportunities for folks to be remotely involved. And there are, those chances. So I'm just going to put another plug in for the scoop. Definitely, stay tuned because there will be more opportunities than we traditionally have had for virtual engagement. And I would not say that it is a disadvantage to not be here.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think when we started originally talking about the source service scholars, everyone was thinking that this was all going to be in person. And so even for the program moving forward, we just finished with our second round of interviews. So every one of our CBOs had to transition into thinking, how do I do this virtually? And all of them are still on board. All of them are thinking, how do we do things virtually? And so I think it's just a different time now. And everyone so far has tried to adjust to the way that we do things. So if you're outside of Baltimore, I don't really see it as a disadvantage. I think that everybody's working to try and figure out like how to make it work at this point.
Thank you. Other questions about our programs and services that you want us to tell you a little bit more about?
I guess this might be on the website, but is there any sort of like deadline or requirements for getting involved with the student groups, or is it more just a matter of reaching out to those people who are in charge of them?
Yeah, there is no deadline with student groups, right? Student groups really have already been established and formed, and they have contact information for individuals so that if you really do want to get involved with those organizations, you can. The other thing I'll say about that is, we were just talking about this in the last session with the School of Medicine. There's an opportunity, even if there's not a current student group, if there's something that you really think should be a student organization because you see the need, then you actually do have the opportunity to create a student group to try to address that need. And so I wouldn't just limit yourself to those organizations that are already listed on the website, but there is a process. And so for all the student groups, like we have to approve those student groups along with the leadership for each one of the schools, the student groups. So I would just say that, you should look at the website, see if there's any group that it really interests you. Or if you have ideas outside of that, feel free to send an email to source@jhu.edu, and one of us will sit down and talk to you about ways to move that forward.
Yeah, if I can follow up there and maybe just pose a question to either you, Tony, or Mindy. Is there going to be a student activities fair at each school?
So yes, and they've all been done a little bit differently or are coming up. I know that nursing already had one, medicine had one, public health is still having one, right, V? Yeah, so it'll be a little like, yes, they're happening. And as a matter of fact, as you asking me that question makes me realize that one thing that we usually do that we're figuring out our new process is that annually we usually have a very big, very popular and fun community involvement fair. Obviously, we can't do it. It's like usually like a 400+ person gathering. I won't tell you too much about the free ice cream and prizes we give out. There are probably still some leftover sitting in our freezer back at the office. But because we can't do that, we are looking at a few other options. So we might have a number of different panels based on themes. Like here's a couple of youth serving organizations. Here's a few organizations that work on mental health issues, etc. We're still working out if we might do the virtual fairs, and the way that we've seen some of the virtual fairs has been, there's like a main Zoom room, Zoom is life, right? The main Zoom room, and then it lists all of the individual Zoom rooms. So if you wanted to go visit healthcare for the homeless, you click on this link and you'd be in the healthcare for the homeless room. Then you click on another link to go see the Men and Family Center, etc. So we actually gave our community partners till the end of this week to let us know which they prefer, but you'll likely see a number of those things roll out from us. So you have face time with our nonprofit partners as well. So right now you're getting some FaceTime with the Source team, but we're certainly going to make sure that you have direct interaction with our community partners. As Tony was mentioning, for our medical students, the incoming medical students, we just finished their first course, which is a 3-day course that introduces them to health disparities. And we just gave some conversations and interactions with a number of community leaders and community residents, and it worked out rather well. Other questions that anybody has, or if any of our Source team members really were like, we didn't mention this or that, or let me tell you a little bit more about that. You know, this is our time to just very casually discuss and learn more.
I'm going to do a very early save the date plug for Baltimore Week. Every year, the first week of October is our signature Baltimore Week events. Now, in the past, we've had great panels and student engagement conversations face-to-face. Know that we will not lose the level of enthusiasm or commitment. We have a really great lineup of events planned. And right in the middle of the week is a focus on environmental justice with not just a panel, but a workshop that allows you to put together a plan of action around addressing environmental injustices here in Baltimore, or perhaps wherever you are. So I want to go ahead and tell you, put those dates on your calendar. That first week of Baltimore starting the 5th, the first week of October starting the 5th, will mark the launch of Baltimore Week, where we'll have a really great lineup of opportunities for you to hear from community partners, from faculty, and from students on different ways that we are addressing issues of injustice here in the city.
Thanks, Kiala. I'll go back to an early plug that Vanessa gave, which was for our student governing board. We've said it a few times, and I don't think I can ever say it enough, how much we rely on the students to partner with us, whether it's running our programs, helping us make decisions, reach the masses, etc. And so the opportunity to apply to become a Source student governing board member is out there. For the new MPH students, we already have that application deadline, and we are reviewing applications right now, and we'll be identifying students to interview. But for all other degree programs in public health, all new students at nursing, and for all new medical students, you'll be able to apply to join our Source governing board. It's a great group of people. I would say that most of our students over the years have said, you know, they can range in how much work they do for the center from a month-to-month basis. It's how much they're available and have time to commit. Could be 4 hours a month, could be more than that, could be less than that. One of the nice things is because we have students from all 3 schools that we all kind of like share that load together. So if it happens to be like finals week at public health, med students or nursing students don't have the exact same schedule. So we have until Sunday, September 20th for students to apply to the governing board. Probably that information on that link will become live a little later today. We're waiting for our website team to like approve and post that message, but it'll be there. We're ready to go, and we really hope that some of you might consider joining us and being a part of our fun little family.
Just another quick plug. We love to hear about the stories that people are doing out in the community, right? And so for individual students, student groups, faculty, staff, we love to share what you're doing as you're working in Baltimore communities, whether that's virtually or in person. And so Azad does a really good job with our social media and with the Scoop and other forums to make sure that everyone is well aware that not only are you a student here, but you're also doing some really good work. And so we try to promote that every month. And so I just wanted you to keep that in mind, because, you know, it's not just about, you know, you being here and being a student and doing work. We try to also make sure that you are acknowledged for the work that you're doing out in the communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tony, for adding that. And I should have also said, not just to follow us on social media, but also feel free to, you know, add us and tag us. If you're doing some awesome work in the community, we want to hear about it. You know, if you're, whether it's volunteering, you know, related to COVID, or if it's some other efforts, even if it's not in person, you know, anything that you're involved with, please feel free, you know, always to tag us and add us on social media as well.
Great. So we have only a few more minutes left. So any other burning questions that we haven't gotten to? Because as you can tell from our team, we can just keep adding plugs all day long. So what else can we tell you about Baltimore, Johns Hopkins, and our experiences? Ooh, another plug came into my head, but I'm going to save it and see if I got a question. And in the Zoom world, the uncomfortable silences, you just have to wait a smidge longer, and I'm fine with that. One thing I will mention, the plug that came to my head, is that Source has worked together with students, faculty, staff, and community partners to develop a small series of online modules that are meant to prepare folks before they work with community. And I'll ask Azad if he wants to throw on up that URL for me while I talk about the Source online modules. But the very first module talks about the history between Johns Hopkins and the East Baltimore community. And it's a really interesting background for you all to learn about. Again, most from the kind of like communications, branding of Johns Hopkins, everything you hear about is like Hopkins is #1 and the best and yada, 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 which there is a lot of greatness, but you also have to understand that complicated history and the harm that has been done and continues to be done. Because as we talked about from the very beginning of our work, from our mission and our values, we are here to, you know, advance health and promote social justice. And therefore, it's really critical in any context where you're working to understand the history and the structures that exist wherever you are working and living and all that kind of good stuff. So those online modules are accessible to you to learn a little bit more about that complicated history between Johns Hopkins and our communities. And we invite you all to be a part of that process to continue to forge a new, better path forward where we are authentically partnering with community together, getting rid of people doing that whole savior syndrome thing where they are swooping in and thinking they know what's best in a community. And nobody knows more than the community other than the people that live there. And that's kind of the values and the way that we approach our work, is that we, as Tyler was mentioning, we want to respond to opportunities that our partners, our community has already identified versus saying, hey, would you mind having a student have this experience? So we're working from a different perspective and a different framework. And again, trying to get that out to more and more people to work in a similar fashion. So I know we've given lots of opportunities for questions. I want to see if any of our team members have any final words to share, other things in your head, because I want to also make sure that we wrap it up in time, because we are trying to be respectful of people's time in the new Zoom world.
Hey, Mindy, if they want to know more about projects and opportunities, what should they do?
Well, what's the easiest thing to do? Easiest thing is to subscribe to that Source Weekly Service Scoop, because that's where we're posting the stuff. Okay. So again, source@jhu.edu, right? Subscribe and just say which school you're affiliated with, and we'll send it right to your inbox every Tuesday. Okay. And then, you know, we'll have plenty of information on our website and all that kind of stuff. But when in doubt, just reach out, source@jhu.edu. Vanessa liked that one. When in doubt, just reach out. I saw that head nod. Others? All right. Well, we want to thank you all so much for coming and joining our Source team in this Zoom session. Lots of different ways to connect. We thank you. And because we're seeing your names and your faces, we're going to be looking for you to join us and work alongside of us and our community partners. So thank you all so much for joining us. And we're looking forward to wonderful collaborations ahead. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.